Hello, and welcome to planning an event using SABC funding for your 2023 SOUL training. As you may have known by recognizing my voice, I'm Michaela Wells, the coordinator of student organizations and fraternity and sorority life here in the Office of Student Involvement at UMSL. Essentially, I oversee anything and everything that has to do with your student organization. And so normally if you have questions, you would contact me. And there's actually a few emails that we use to kind of organize those emails and what questions you have. And those emails will be available to you at the end of this presentation. So make sure you stick around. For those of you that attended SOUL last year as student organization leaders, you may recognize this content. It's very similar, but due to your feedback, we have split it up in between planning an event with SABC funding and planning an event without SABC funding, because there may be times that you don't get approved for SABC funding. You may have forgotten to submit a request to get SABC funding, things like that. And so you might not be able to follow these steps that are required when you have SABC funding. So we hope that you enjoyed Blaine's talk through of how to plan an event without that SABC funding. But I'm here today to talk through how to plan an event with SABC funding. For those of you that know me, you know I like a list. You know that I like to think of things in chronological order. So this is what I would say is probably the best way to plan an event in the correct order to do that, to make sure all of the steps get achieved and that you have a successful event. So first we're going to go into picking a date and time. You got to start with picking a date and time, because if you make any other plans and then the date falls through, or the place you want to have the thing falls through on that date that you want to have it, then you're just kind of like SOL, right? So first, when you're thinking of a date and time, as far as time, what time will people come to an event? So what time are people normally on campus? When do you see people just hanging out on campus? When are there classes that maybe people wouldn't be able to come to your event, so that you can avoid those times? And then for the day, which day of the week will people come? So again, when do most of the people that you want to come to your event have classes? What time are those classes, and how can you accommodate, if only one certain date works for your organization, how can you accommodate the time to make sure that people can be there? And also, what date gives you enough time to prepare? As we know, to submit a budget request for student activity budget funding, you have to pick a date that's more than 4 weeks away, because every request needs to be 4 weeks out minimum. So always make sure that you have enough time to prepare for your event, but specifically with SABC funding, that you have more than 4 weeks. And then lastly, who can be there? So which of your members or officers of your organization are able to attend the event on the day and time that you've picked? Because if only one person can be there, that person might get a little burnt out being the only one that's expected to be there. And also, it's just a little difficult. Who's going to check in? Well, who's going to welcome the people? It's always helpful to have 2 to 3 people from your organization able to run an event, to just kind of cover all of your bases. Things I said just a second ago. You need to check in if you have student activity money. So who's going to be there with the QR code to help troubleshoot the check-in process? Who's going to be the person inside of the event telling people this is what's going on, here's some food if we have it, and this is what's happening next, just to kind of prepare your attendees for what's going on. And then there can be a multitude of other people. So maybe someone's handing out supplies for the event. Maybe you have people sitting around giving instructions on how to do what you're talking about in your event. All of those things are things that you need to make sure you have covered by your officers and members so that you have a successful event. So always make sure when you're picking a day and time that people from your organization can also attend, and not just other people that you're hoping to either recruit or just interact with on campus. Second, once you pick that date and time, you're going to want to reserve your location so you can make sure that you have the location set in stone before you start promoting your event. So you're going to use the event services reservation software, which is mymazevo.com. Mazevo is super simple and easy. We have a whole training on that. Rachel walks through how to create an event on Mazevo. But essentially, you go in there, you click add new request, and you answer all the questions it asks of you. Very similar to submitting a budget request in Triton Connect. You go and you click the right button, and then you start answering all the questions it asks of you. It's important to note that the way that Event Services has Mazevo set up, only the president and treasurer of your student group are able to make reservations. And so you need to make sure that if you're updating your officers, that if like there's a change of officers in your organization between president and treasurer, they're updating that in Triton Connect and also emailing us to notify us in the Office of Student Involvement that change has occurred. So that when you go to make this reservation with Event Services, you don't get an email back saying like, who are you? You're not supposed to be making reservations for your organization, things like that. Another good thing to know is that classroom spaces cannot be reserved on Mazevo, and those need to be reserved by your advisor using 25 Live. Most advisors as faculty members probably know what 25 Live is. They use it to reserve their classroom spaces, and if they don't know what that is, probably an executive assistant in their office or someone similar would be able to help them with that. But just make sure that they know that classroom spaces cannot be reserved through Event Services. Those have to be done through 25 Live. And then 25 Live pushes those reservations over to the Office of Student Involvement to approve, to make sure that your advisor was the one that made that reservation for you. All right, and then third, you're going to want to create that event on Triton Connect. So you've picked a day, a time, you know who can be there, and you have reserved your event location. It's been approved. So now you're going to want to create your event on Triton Connect because that's how you're going to promote your event. So step one, you're going to log into Triton Connect. You're going to click Groups on the top of the page, and you're going to select the group that you're creating an event for. Once you get into the back end of that portal, you're going to click the event's title. It's always green. It's always going to be green. And then next, you'll click the Create Event button, which is normally on the top right of the screen. I don't know why I said normally. It's always on the top right of the screen. So you'll make sure you click that. Again, just a reminder, I'm sure you all know, but the link is on the bottom, tritonconnect.umsl.edu if you're having trouble getting there. So once you click that Create Event button on the top right, you'll complete all the questions that are asked of you in the event creation form. So essentially, just like everything else on Triton Connect, once you click the Create or Add button, you'll just answer the questions it's asking of you. So some important pieces that I want to make sure you pay attention when you're creating your event. Event tags. Event tags are super helpful because they help promote your organization and they help, not your organization necessarily, but your event, because people on Triton Connect, when they're looking at upcoming events, can sort by event tags. So some popular event tags that I'm sure you all love and adore, free food, giveaways, what else? Free food and giveaways are pretty much the ones that we always promote, but there's obviously others. There's education, there's leadership opportunities, there's student organization things. So you can tag your event to whatever is applicable to you. This is also how you'll indicate commuter cash participation. So you'll want to make sure that you put the commuter cash tag if your event is free and open to everyone. Just a note, obviously we're talking about SABC funded events, so you have to upload your attendance anyways. But if you're going to tag your event as a commuter cash event, you need to put your attendance up there, or else your organization will not be able to submit commuter cash eligible events in the future. Another thing to note is your team members. When you're creating that event and you get to the spot where it has team members, if you are hoping to check people in by scanning people's QR codes using your phone, so your members logging into the Triton Connect app, going to your event, saying check attendance, and scanning people's QR codes, their personal QR codes, everyone that you want to do that will need to be added as a team member in the event. So, you know, when you attend an OSI event, when we are scanning you in and there's not a QR code on the table. So there's a QR code on the table. The team members thing doesn't necessarily matter, but it is helpful to have team members in case someone's phone isn't working to scan the QR code. But so when you go to an OSI event and we're like, oh, I can just type your name in, that is because anyone that's just typing your name in to check your attendance in, that is a team member on that event. So they are the person that has been added as a team member and has access to kind of do some more things on the back end, like check in attendees. Next, you'll want to check the registration options. If you want people to be able to register, if you don't, make sure that, like, if it's an event for just your student group. So for instance, last semester, Sports Management Club was able to attend an event that was out of town using team development funds. Obviously, they weren't just inviting anyone to go to that event because it was a student group team development opportunity. So because it was SABC funded, they still needed to record attendance in Triton Connect. So when they created that event in Triton Connect, they made sure that the only people that could register were members of the Sports Management Club portal. And they also, that next star on there, access and display options, they also made sure that that event was only accessible and displayed to members of the sports management club. So if you're doing an event that is a team development event and it's only for your members, but you do need to record attendance at that event because it's SABC funded, you'll want to make sure that your access and display options and your registration are set to student group only. But if you're planning a program and it's SABC funded, obviously that needs to be open to everyone and available to everyone. So you're going to want to make sure that that is set to at least all UMSL members of the portal. And then lastly, the attendance and tracking options. This is where you can choose how you're going to track attendance. As a kind of rule of thumb for my events, I always just pick the option that says you can do both options, which is either people that are attending can scan a QR code, or you can type in their name or scan their personal QR code. Just because you never know what's going to happen at your event. Something could go wrong. The printer could not print your QR code right. Things like that. So just to be over prepared, I tend to always just put it so that we can track attendance in any way possible. All right, and then once you click submit on your event, you will notice this screen appears. So it's asking if you're hosting a performer for this event. And then if you click yes, the second question will pop up that says, are you paying the speaker or performer for your event? And you'll answer yes or no. And then it will ask if the event is funded in any way by SABC. Obviously, in this timeline, you have not obtained funds yet, but you're hoping to. So you would click, we're hoping to obtain funds for this event. And this speaker question, all of these questions right here, until you answer them and click submit, your event is not submitted. So if you're like, I submitted an event, Michaela, why is it not approved? What's happening? If you go to your events, you may see that there's a draft event because you didn't answer these questions and click submit. Excuse me. So once you answer these questions, if you say yes, you're bringing a speaker, and yes, you're paying the speaker, then it will take you to a form that's going to ask you all of this information about your speaker, and that will help us create an appearance agreement for you. So essentially, if you are bringing a speaker or performer to campus and you are paying them to come, paying any part of them being here, so whether they just need a hotel, we would need to have an appearance agreement if we're using university funds to pay them or pay for that hotel. So once you click yes that you're bringing a speaker and yes that you're paying a speaker, it will automatically take you to this form that you see on the left hand side of the screen. But if you aren't ready to post your event in Triton Connect yet, you haven't got all the details squared away, but you want to bring a speaker and you want to make sure we get that appearance agreement made in time, you can always go in to Triton Connect, do surveys and forms, and then go to request for appearance agreement. And that surveys and forms button on the homepage is on the left-hand menu. I would always say if you don't have that left-hand menu popped out on Triton Connect, I would always pop it out just so you can see all of your options and see what's going on. As I stated at the beginning of this slide, there's quite a bit of information that we need to know in order for you to bring a speaker to campus, but that is because our business support specialist needs all that information to create an official appearance agreement or contract, essentially, for this person to attend. So we need their first and last name, we need their email address, their phone number, their address, their tax status. We need to know if they're a U.S. citizen. We need their W-9. We need to know how much you're paying them to come there. We need to know if they have travel accommodations, and then we need to know if it's self-represented or an agency. So that would mean, do they have an agent that is contracting for them, or are they self-represented? So once you fill out this form, we, in the Office of Student Involvement, essentially our business support specialist, so not even anyone that actually works in the Office of Student Involvement, but it comes to the Office of Student Involvement, and then our business support specialist creates a contract for you. She will email it to your speaker and performer to sign, and then whoever you put as the contact for this information, so it'll ask you for a student group contact, whoever that student group contact is listed in here, she will CC you, and then she will send the signed contract once it's sent back with a signature to business services for their signature. And then you will approve the step in the workflow indicating that your speaker or performer arrived on the day they were supposed to. And then business services will send them a check or direct deposit if they're already set up in our system within 3 to 4 weeks. So obviously this is a long process. We suggest that you fill out this form. So create your event and fill out this form 6 to 8 weeks prior to your event, just to make sure that everything can get squared away. All right, now that we have created our event, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty details. Do we want to have food at our event? So if you want to have food at your event, the best way to figure out what you would like is to go to umsl.catertracks.com and explore the catering options that they have. As you're exploring, if you see items you want, add them to your cart. Once you've added them to your cart, all the items you want, so you can see in this picture right here, we have a light lunch reception for $20 and a sweet and salty snack bar for $12. You're going to go ahead and screenshot your cart and save that on your computer or wherever you're doing this, wherever you normally create budget requests, because this is the screenshot you're going to need to upload with your budget request to prove how much money you need for your Sodexo catering. So this website is important because this is where you'll go to figure out what you want. You'll start adding items into your cart. You don't need to log in or anything. As you can see down here, it says sign in or register to check out. You're not going to do any of that. You're just going to go in here, add items you want to your cart, and then screenshot your cart and keep it handy to request funding. So now that we got all our details squared away, we're going to go ahead and request funding from SABC, right? And this is probably the meat and potatoes you came here for. You're all wondering, how can I make sure my budget requests are perfect? What details have changed? What am I missing? And so a quick overview of kind of the timeline. So you plan your event, you come up with a time, date, location, as well as what items you will need to purchase for the event, catering, venue costs, supplies for your event, etc. You'll submit a budget request, which is where you notify SABC that you want to be allocated money for your event. So a budget request is where you're asking for money. Please, SABC, we want to do this program. Please give us funding. Up next, SABC will review your request. The committee reviews and grades your request on a rubric, so the final score from the committee determines whether your request is denied, allocated, or partially allocated. Once your funding has shown up in Triton Connect, it will always be allocated in Triton Connect, and you should receive a notification that you have been allocated money. So that will be coming to your email. We updated the budget request process, so it now does this. It will notify you once your money has been allocated. Once you've been allocated money, you can go ahead and submit a payment request. So this is where you notify our business support specialist that you need items purchased for your student group. Excuse me. And so this is how you communicate. So the budget request is how you communicate you need money. Once you get money, the payment request is how you say, I need to use my money. Once you submit a payment request, that payment request will be pushed into a workflow, and that workflow ensures that all of the appropriate channels and people are included in the process. So if you submit a payment request for us to pay for your venue with event services, so you rented the Century Rooms and you need us to pay them, this will add Rachel and the event services team to the payment request workflow, and it will tell me that I need to give Rachel a MO code. And then Rachel will get the MO code through this workflow. Once it moves through the workflow, you'll be notified that it was approved and everything's good to go. Say you're requesting Sodexo funds. When you submit that payment request, it will notify Sodexo that you want to make an order. It will ask you the appropriate questions of what you want in your order so Sodexo can get everything squared away. Sodexo will communicate with you through that workflow process, saying what your BEO number is, what time they'll be arriving, and things like that. And I will communicate with Sodexo through that workflow, giving them the correct MO code. So now that we gave you a quick little overview of that timeline for requesting funding, there is 5 other videos in this sole Canvas page that explain specifically what to do to obtain funding, reserve space, order catering, order from Amazon, and receive items from the Triton store using your SABC funding. So obviously all of these videos are required for you to watch, but we thought it was easier to have these all kind of broken down into smaller pieces as opposed to just one big 45-minute conversation about SABC and how to use money on campus. So then, hopefully when you go to use your money, you can log back into this Canvas portal and say, okay, I need to make a reservation. So let me go watch Rachel's video on how to make a reservation. Or maybe you need to order catering, so you're going to go and watch my video on how to do catering. Same for Amazon with Dakota, Triton store with me. And then the big meat and potatoes about SABC funding is going to be with Mindy, and you will see that in your Soul portal. So just make sure to check that out. I know that I kind of teased you a little bit there with this is what you came for. Well, this is really what you came for, is that you need to know all this different information when working with a student group. And there's multiple different ways to use your money on campus, and it does get a little bit confusing and in the weeds when we try to explain it all at once. So this year we broke it up into 5 separate pieces to give you a little bit more insight on how each of those steps works. So once you have all these details solidified and you requested funding, now it's just to finalize the details. So With your reservation, you want to make sure, did you add a description in the setup notes for everything that you need? How much setup time did you give yourself? What time can you and your members start showing up to set up for your event? With catering, did you finalize a delivery time with the catering folks? And you can always, if you have questions regarding your order, you can confirm with Triton Catering at upsall.edu that you are good to go. With your event posting in Triton Connect, did any details change since you originally made the event? This is important because any student group event posted in Triton Connect is approved by the Office of Student Involvement. So some of you may have noticed last year, if you last minute realized the location changed or the time of your event changed and you tried to change it in Triton Connect, your event disappeared off the event calendar. That's because the Office of Student Involvement, in between the time you changed it and the time your event now occurred, the Office of Student Involvement didn't have time to approve that new change. So you always want to make sure that, like, probably 4 or 5 days before your event, if there's any changes, you need to make sure that they've been made in your Triton Connect event, and that it's ready to go. And then I would say a day or two before, just in case there's any printer issues or anything on campus, you're going to want to make sure you printed your QR code to do check-in. And I'm actually going to go into a little bit more details about check-in in a second. And then with your supplies, if you ordered supplies that our business support specialist had to order for you from Amazon, the Triton store, things like that, you're going to make sure that you picked up what you ordered a minimum of 2 days before your event. Because if the Office of Student Involvement, you get to the front desk, you get your package, and you're like, what the heck, where's this one item we ordered? The front desk is going to say, probably Amazon had a delay. Michaela ordered everything that was in your order. I say Michaela because I was in charge of this last year. I'm not in charge of ordering your supplies anymore. But like whoever ordered it, ordered everything that was on your list for sure. And if there's anything missing, it's probably because Amazon had a delay. So if there's anything missing that you need to go grab, you'll need to have time to go to the store. You don't want to be picking up your items for your event an hour, 2 hours before it happens, because then that's going to add stress to your day of having to run over to Save-A-Lot, grab a few things that are last minute and hope that you can find them there. You don't want to be doing that right before your event. You want to have a smooth sailing, be able to just grab the box out of your car, go into your event, set it up, everything's good to go. All right, so I said I'd get to check in a little bit. So if you're checking in people at your event using the QR code, this is going to be the steps to do that. So to make the QR code, you're going to go to your event and you're going to click Manage on the top. So if you go to the event calendar and you click your event, at the top it'll say Manage. Click that button, and then you'll see a check-in attendees button on the right-hand side that's green. You're going to want to click that, and then it will pop up a box that has 3 options for you. If you're using that QR code, you're going to do this self-check-in QR code, and it will take you to a page, oh my goodness, excuse me, that looks like this image on the left. It will show you your check-in code, and then there's an option on the right-hand side to print as a PDF. And this is just simple, easy. This is how you'll print your QR code. Once your event is happening, to check in the attendees, they will just, all of your attendees, you will indicate that they need to scan the QR code with their phone. So they can either use their camera. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I should not have recorded this right in the morning. I'm so tired. Okay, so attendees can scan the QR code with their phone camera. So they can do that if that's simple for them. Or if they have the Triton Connect app, they can go to the menu, which is normally the buttons on the bottom right-hand side of the app. They'll click menu, and then they'll click QR code scanner in that menu, and it will pop up a little scanner for them. Once they scan that code, it will just automatically check them in because they're already logged into the Triton Connect app. If they use their phone camera, they will have to go to Triton Connect and log in. So it is just a little bit faster if they use the Triton Connect app, but obviously maybe not everyone has it downloaded or their phone isn't updated or something like that. So there's a few options, but when you go to make your QR code, just remember these instructions are here, and you can go in here and check how to do that. All right. That was a quick little run through of everything that you need to plan an event with SABC funding. Obviously, you may have some more questions. Make sure that you watch all of the SOL videos before you ask more questions, just because, like I said, this is an overview. There's those 5 other videos that go way more in depth on using your funding and requesting it for specific areas of your event. So just make sure you watch all of those before you send questions. But as always, if you have a student organization question, you can email studentorganizations@umsl.edu. There should not be 2 L's right here. I apologize. And then if you have an SABC specific question, you can always email sabc@umsl.edu. And myself, our student workers, or my supervisor will always be checking that email to respond to you. So if you have questions, once you have finished all of SOL, you can go ahead and add them or email them to these emails here, depending on what you have a question about. and you'll be good to go. Thank you for listening to my voice once again. I'm sure some of you are probably tired of hearing trainings by Michaela, which is why we're kind of trying to diversify the Wise Up Wednesday schedule this semester. I hope you're excited about some of those topics that were on there, but I will see you on the flip side explaining how to order catering and how to order items from the Triton store. Have a good day.